Hello everyone, and this is the chapter 1 part 2. In this part we're going to cover the following topic. We're going to learn what is a simple random sample and what is a simple random sampling. We will classify studies, the statistical study as observational or experimental, and we're going to learn what are the other sampling designs techniques. So let's start with the first one. What is a simple random sample? It's a sampling technique in which every member of the population has equal chance of being selected. You can understand this idea by using an example of a piece of a paper in which we have let's say we have 4 slips of paper in which I have written the numbers A, B, C, and D, and we want to we put the numbers A, B, C, D on this paper, and we put them in a hat, and we take out a piece of a paper, and let's say that number is, let's say, a B. So each one of those A, B, C, D has an equal chance of being selected. Such a sampling technique in which every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected is called a simple random sampling. And the sample which is selected as a part of it, as this procedure, is called a simple random sample. So remember the difference between the two. The student get confused with these two things. One is the technique. The simple random sampling is a technique, and the simple random sample is the product, is the result of that technique, right? So this is the most important sampling technique, and this entire book, this entire course will deal only with the one sampling technique, although we're going to study some other sampling methods, but this is the sampling technique we're going to focus on this entire chapter, simple random sampling. There are two types of simple random sampling. One is called with replacement and the other one is called without replacement. Let's say I take a piece of a paper in which written the B, and I take that out and I don't put it back. Now when I pick another sample from that, I cannot select a B again. Such a sampling is called simple random sampling without replacement. And let's say if I put it back, the number B again, then there is a chance that I can select that B once again. So such a sampling technique is called simple random sampling with the replacement. So simple random sampling done with replacement or without replacement. So you need to understand what type of sampling is done, right? So in a simple random sampling with replacement, the member of the population can be selected more than one time. And in without replacement, the member of the population cannot be selected more than one time, right? So you need to understand the difference between the two. Now let's talk about observational and an experimental study. I told you in the part 1 of this lecture that we conduct statistical studies to acquire data, right? We conduct studies to get the data, and there are two distinct sources. One is called observational study, and other is an experimental study. So first I will explain what is an observational study. When the researcher collects the data without interfering how the data arise, then such a statistical study is called an observational study. For example, I may collect the information via surveys or via medical record. When I'm getting this information, I'm not interfering how the data arise. I'm just observing. So such a statistical study in which you get the information, you get the data without interfering, such a data is called such a study is called an observational study. And the other study is called an experimental study or a designed experiment. Some people also call it an designed experiment. In such a study, the researcher obtains the data by applying some treatment, applying some treatment or some control, and then he obtains the information, and then he collects the data. Such a study is called an experimental study. I give you a very rude example. Let us suppose, just to understand the idea, although the example is not all that good, but you will understand the idea. Let's say you have a kid and he has done something wrong, right? He has done something, he messed up the room, right? So you asked him, did you do that? The kid will say, no, I haven't done that. You ask again, did you do that? He will say, no, I did that. Now the third time you ask, you raise your voice, did you do that? So when you raise your voice, now you have applied a certain treatment. You raise your voice, and as a result, the kids say, yes, it's me who has done that. So although the example is rude, but you get the idea. When you get the information, when you get a result by applying some treatment, by applying some control, such a study is called an experimental study. So what is the rule of the thumb? How you remember, is it an inferential, or if it's a observational study? If the data is collected by applying some sort of treatment, it's always inferential. And if no treatment is applied, then such a study is called observational study. Now let's understand some other sampling technique. I already told you the one sampling technique. This is a simple random sampling, right? And now I'm going to tell you some other sampling technique, and this is the first one is systematic sampling. In this systematic sampling, what we do, we select randomly a starting point, and then we skip every kth element. This kth can be any numbers. It's second element, third element, fourth element, fifth element. So right now what I'm doing in this picture, I'm skipping 2 people and selecting the third one. I'm skipping 2 people, I'm selecting the third one, and so on and so forth. So such a sampling technique is called a systematic sampling technique, in which we gather the information, we select a sample by randomly selecting a starting point, and we skip a certain number of item or individual, and then select the next one. So let's take an example. For example, every 5th adult entering an airport is checked for extra security screening. What type of what type of sampling technique is used? This is an example of a systematic sampling. We are systematically selecting a person. Every 5th person which is coming in the airport, maybe in a checkout counter, whatever the place is, they are checking for the extra security, and that is one example of a systematic sampling. Let's understand how the systematic sampling is done. Right? This is the procedure. This is the method how we do that. There are 3 steps available, and I will explain each of these steps with the help of an example. Right? I'm not going to read these steps. I will show you with the help of an example what are these 3 steps. So let's take an example to understand how the systematic sampling is implemented. See this example. The number of a population have been numbered. The member of the population have been numbered from 1 to 299. A sample of size 5 is to be taken from the population using a systematic sampling procedure. What is the K and what is the sample, right? So for the first step, we divide the population size by the sample size. The population size is 299, which is written in the red, and the sample size is 5. This is 5, right? This is 290. What I'm going to do first, in the first step, I'm going to divide this 299 by 5, and I get 59.8. And what I do, I round this down, not round up, but round down. This is the procedure. I would have round up, but that's not. The procedure says you round down, and the round down is 59. So this 59 is my M, the M which is mentioned in the first step. So 59 is my M. So how I'm going to deal with that? How I'm going to handle this one? Now I go to the step number 2, use a random number table or a similar device to obtain a number K between 1 and M. Now we are looking for a K. How we're going to do that? This is the table this is the random number table I have, right? You could have used a random number generator also by like an Excel program, but I'm showing you this example with the help of this table. So my number is 2-digit number, but this is these are all 4-digit numbers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this 2-digit number. This is 67. Look at this 2-digit number. Look at this 2-digit number. This is 2-digit number. I start from this one here. This is the 2-digit number, right? 67, and this is not between 1 and 59. I go down like this. I set the second one. This is 79. This is still beyond my 59. I go to the next one. This is 93. This is not between 1 and 59. I go to this one. This is 17, and that number is between 1 and 59. So my K will be as 17. So this is my K. K is equal to 17. So that's how you deal. You start with the top left corner and then you move down, right? That's a technique of using this number. So K is 17. Now what we do, now we have M, we have K. Now our sample will be 17 plus M, 17 plus 2M, 17 plus 3M, and so on and so forth. So these numbers, these members of the population which have these numbers will be our sample using the systematic sampling. I hope it is clear. The practice will make you more perfect about that. So this is a systematic sampling. Let's go to the stratified sampling. What we do in a stratified sampling, we divide our entire population into some groups, right? And each group is called a strata. And then we select a random sample from each of the group. This is my entire look at this picture. Right now, this entire population, I have divided this group, this population into in certain. I have divided this population on the basis of gender. Women on the one side, men on the other side. So I have divided into two. Now I will randomly select some people from this group, and I will randomly select some people from this particular group. So such a sampling technique is called stratified sampling, divide and conquer. Next is a cluster sampling. What we do in a cluster sampling, we divide our population into small pieces. Each piece is called a cluster. So this is a cluster. So right now I have 32 clusters. You can see that, right? And then we randomly select the cluster. Right now I have selected cluster 5, cluster 28, and cluster 16. You can see that randomly selected. These are randomly selected cluster, and then I will include all members of this cluster as my sample. Just to see another example, let us suppose this is a state of New Jersey, and I have divided this in the state of New Jersey into different counties, right? Different counties, right? There are 21 counties. I'm not going to show 21. So what I'm going to do now, I will randomly select I will randomly select some clusters. Let's say I select the Middlesex County, right? Let's say I select a Bergen County randomly, right? And let's say I select another county, let's say Salem County, right? Don't forget about this spelling mistake. So these are the randomly select counties. Now what I will do, I will include every member of this selected, every member of this county as a part of my sample. I will select this one. I will select all the people from the Bergen and from the Salem County. So the cluster sampling, it's the people get confused with the cluster sampling and a stratified sampling. So you need to understand the difference between the two. It's very important. Let's see an example. This is the national for-profit chain hospital management wants to survey a patient discharged this past year to obtain the patient satisfaction. They wish to use a sample of such patient. Several sampling techniques are described below. You have to categorize. The first one, obtain a list of discharge from this facility, divide the patient according to the hospital, say 2 days less than. So this is a stratified sampling. We divide the patient in the number of days we divide them in the number of days they have stayed in the hospital, and then we select some people from each portion. Obtain the list of patients discharged from MMH facility, number these patients, and then use a random number table to obtain the sample. This is an example of a simple random sampling. The first one was a stratified sampling. This one was a stratified sampling, and the second one is an example of a simple random sampling. The third one is randomly select MMH facility from each of the geographic location, then include all members. Look at this, all, and randomly. So this is an example of a cluster sampling, right? And the last one, at the beginning of each year, instruct each MMH facility to survey every 500 patient discharge. So this is an example of a systematic sampling. So these all sampling designs have been discussed. So I hope you understand the video. If you have any question, you can contact me via email. Thanks for watching.